Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everybody. Welcome to our second session of reasoned analysis. Do words matter? I am joined by Mr. Shabir Yusuf to discuss this. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum to all our viewers. Just a quick point, just in case you are wondering what is a lady doing sat next to me. 25% wife.
100%.
You are entitled to your opinion in this great country of ours, the United Kingdom.
Don't be dreaming about number 2, 3 or 4. It's not going to happen.
You are entitled to your opinion in this great country of ours, the United Kingdom.
I think we need to stay on topic.
We are on topic. WIFE. Why 25%?
Right, so we're discussing first of all, why are words important? Why do they matter?
The best example I usually give is when people enter a court of law. You will find that lawyers and the judges are very, very careful about the words they employ, so that they can not only be effective in what they are trying to make people understand or portray, but more importantly, you do not want any kind of confusion. The very idea of us coming up with the word confusion is to justify something. However, going a bit further than that, you will find the drafters of legislation have to be extremely careful about how and what words they use. So yes, words are extremely important, and also we should make an effort to try and understand what potentially the origin of the word may be. So yes, words are extremely important.
So today we are discussing the terms religion and religious. So shall we start with the definition of religion? What is the dictionary definition?
The dictionary definition of the word religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. That is actually the dictionary definition of the word religion.
So what's the problem with this definition?
Excellent question. You see, if you look at the word itself, and if we go according to the definition, the belief, obviously the word belief has to be defined, in and worship of a superhuman controlling power. Now the word superhuman, usually when we are talking about words, the word superhuman conjures up Superman, Batman, yeah? Because we are giving additional powers, or the idea is to give additional powers to a human being.
So basically an enhanced human.
Exactly, yeah? And with the way, a lot of AI development is taking place and military research, we may end up with human beings who have got this capacity to be able to have powers which would not normally have as human beings. Yeah. So you see, you look at the word superhuman, again, one of the major issues that we will find is that unless and until you have a yardstick to measure against, even though words may evolve for the better or even for the worse, if ever a situation arises where you want to definitively establish and understand something, then it will necessarily mean that you need an independent yardstick by which to confirm whether potentially the words that you are employing to describe something is entirely correct.
Right, so isn't it problematic when it's actually part of the definition is saying a personal god or gods?
That is the second part of the definition. You see, one of the major issues is that all the belief systems that we have in the world today have all been banded under the word religion.
That umbrella.
Yes. So you find if it's Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma as it is called, it is associated with the idea that there are a multiplicity of gods. In fact, on a general level, if you ask someone who is slightly aware, they will tell you you are talking about potentially 360 million gods.
Whoa.
Now, naturally, if you go to the scholarly community, they will tell you, well, no, we are talking about spirits. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is talking about gods. Unfortunately, that view needs to be critically evaluated, because we are told of stories in the scriptures about gods actually battling each other. So either within the definition of a superhuman, yes, there are individuals who are superhuman, who are fighting each other. But when it comes to strictly a definition of the creator, again, we will need an independent yardstick by which to measure whether the definition of the word religion is entirely appropriate to fit these belief systems.
Right, so religion is used to umbrella all the systems we have of belief at this moment in time, yeah?
Absolutely. That is an issue for me. You see, you find every belief system is under the word religion. So you have on the one hand a multiplicity of gods. You may have even devil worshippers. And if they've got a set of codes, rules, etc., then they also can be defined as a religion. Now, you have got what are known as monotheistic systems, belief systems. Islam, Judaism. Well, Christianity claims that it is part of the monotheistic system, and partially it is. But they also have this idea of a trinity of the Creator. Yeah, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Again, that's a separate issue. However, all these belief systems are being banded under the word religion. So, if you look at Sanatan Dharma Hinduism, you look at Judaism, you look at Islam, you look at Christianity, if you look at their very idea of what a creator is or a God is, you will find total conflict in them. And as such, if there is so much conflict in each belief system, how then can we logically and reasonably suggest that they all ought to be banded under the one word religion?
That's a very valid point.
Of course it is. That's why we are discussing it. Yeah.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about the origin of the word, right? You said what the definition is, but the actual origin, where it came from, and what preceded it.
Right. Excellent point. You see, one of the things that we need to understand is that words will have their origin. And what we need to try and do is establish where they originated from and whether they are entirely appropriate once they have been defined. Now, we will note that the word religion, there are many aspects to it, but one of them is that the word comes from the Latin religare. And the word religare was conventionally meant to mean a binding between the soul of the human and the creator. So, the word religare is to bind, the soul binding with the creator. Now, again, you will note that this word was not the only one that was being used. The Greeks also had a word, threskaia, which again took on this form of the word religion, but it didn't necessarily mean that. You see, either it meant that or it meant generic worship, and it was usually used as a word to define generic worship. So the word religion actually comes from the word religare. We have to now also see why that word actually arose. And you will find that it was in the context of what commonly we would know as a Judeo-Christian understanding.
So what was the word that they used previous to religion?
That is interesting. You will find prior to the 15th, 16th century, in fact, even now, if you are to look at the scriptures of the Hindus or the Sanatan Dharma, you will not find the word religion. If you look at even the Bible, you will not find the word religion. Islam does not have the word religion. So the interesting point to note is, if this word is not to be found in the scriptures, then logic would dictate to me that if these belief systems are a guidance for humanity, then such an important aspect also would have been mentioned. So prior to the 15th or the 16th century, you looked at Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism, and the word that was used was only law. You look at Islam, and Islam also was only used as law, the definition, when they were understanding about the belief system. So prior to the 15th and 16th century,
Who used the word law, sorry?
whoever was applying Islam as a system, or even Sanatan Dharma, they used to refer to it as the law states X, Y, and Z. They did not say the religion states X, Y, and Z.
And what about in Christianity and Judaism? What did they use in those?
As we noted, and I said a few minutes ago, the word religar came from a Judeo-Christian perspective. Having said that, I also noted that the word religion was not used,
In their text.
nor is it in the Bible. So it seems something happened around the 15th or the 16th century which led us to the current understanding of the word religion.
So a shift occurred.
Certainly a shift occurred.
Right. So what shift? Looking at the evidence, what shift occurred?
Well, like I just said a few minutes ago, almost all cultures, in fact, you will notice, Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, Shintoism, all these belief systems were not even present prior to the 15th and 16th century in the context of what we would understand in the dictionary. So the question is, why this particular word entered the dictionary?
At that point.
At that point. And you find that it seems to be coinciding with when what we would collectively call the Western world going out into the rest of the world and basically dominating the world. And as such, the speculative, intellectual, scientific, that's another word which we will be discussing, scientific endeavors were all as a result of this shift of what we call the Western world going into the rest of the world. Now, it came to such an extent that the educational system and our understanding of everything seems to have taken on a what you would call Western bent. Yeah? So you have, even today you will find, and I'm not suggesting that there is anything wrong with the whole system. We are trying to establish how this word actually came into the fore and why we are, from my perspective, we are wrongly applying it to Islam, the system.
So what you say that, okay, they impose their own take on things, yeah, their own law, and dictated that everything should be branded under that word religion.
Right. As we are just discussing, words are very important. So the word impose, the word dictate, I would probably keep away from. What I would suggest is that, look, it seems to be a natural aspect of life that when there is a dominating power, it naturally is going to be the one that is going to be telling the rest how things ought to be done. It is just one of those things. So you find that when they started developing all these systems, especially in terms of education, you had a lot of people, and let's get one thing clear, what we call botanists, archaeologists, people who look at history, these individuals were also present in the previous civilizations, for want of a better word. So it is not that they weren't there. They were. But like I said, after the 16th century, the industrialization from the Western world, the domination from the Western world took a great, or rather had a great impact on the rest of the world.
And the whole system seemed to have changed.
And the whole system not seemed to have, it did change. to the extent that today we don't realize it, that we are using words which, when carefully considered, you will find do not actually fit with the belief system that we have employed in our lives. In this context, I'm talking about Islam. If I were to take the definition of the word religion, the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. If I were to ask any Muslim, that definition, would you use it for the understanding of the Creator from the Islamic perspective? I would find it extremely strange if I had one Muslim who would agree that that definition, there is no problem with it when applied to Islam and how Islam tells us what the Creator is. So, we find that the Western world, collectively as I said, have established or had established an educational system to the extent that if you went back to, now we have got countries, you go to any country in the world, if it was colonized by the United Kingdom, you will find that the educational system is entirely according to how it is here. And I am aware that when we were at school in Africa, the examination papers used to come from the UK. Now, you find also that a lot of the times, and there's nothing wrong with it to a certain extent, that the history that we were taught was entirely about what? It was about the United Kingdom and its exploits. Anything else seemed to have just been, well, irrelevant. But that can be understood in the context of domination. It is a natural thing that it is the one who is the victor who is going to write the history.
That's a well-known
It is. So we find that words are very impactful, and what we have to try and do is understand and gauge, measure, and apply according to the standard that is the appropriate one. Like I said, I know that if I ask any Muslim, and we are talking about it from an Islamic perspective, I ask any Muslim, are you comfortable with this definition? I will be very surprised if there is one Muslim who is in the know, who will tell me, yes, this particular definition works.
Well, it's a contradiction, isn't it?
There we are.
It's a contradiction to what we know. Even, obviously it's saying a personal God or gods. What is that actually saying? That's saying that there's more than one God for a start.
No, it is sort of an acknowledgement that there can be more than one God. Yeah? Now, if you look at the definition, we just take it a bit further. Where you have inclusivity as opposed to exclusivity, one will naturally say, look, let's go with what is inclusive.
Will you?
Yes, we will. It is a standard practice. You see, when you move away from what is known as the common trend, you are seen differently. In fact, to a certain extent, that if you decide to literally apply what you believe to be your belief system, you will be considered an extremist. Here's another word that is applied. If not, a further step will be taken, and if you are going against what we commonly call totally against the grain, you are going to potentially be vilified. That is what happens. Now, I would suggest that if I, as a Muslim, were asked, what is your definition of Islam? Would I use that? The answer is a definitive no. I would not use that. Okay. But as I was saying about inclusivity and exclusivity, where you have an educational system, that educational system will try its utmost to be inclusive.
Well, most, yes. Most
they will. So, if you have a classroom full of Hindus, Jews, Christians, Muslims, atheists, Satanists, well, the teacher is going to try their best to see if they can all be inclusive.
Is that right? So, From that point you've just made, is that why we have the church and the state?
That is a very interesting distinction, which we are going to come
Is
to.
it because it's too problematic to have, like you said, if you have a group of people all coming from different belief systems, would it be too difficult then to teach one particular belief system? Is that why we've gone to the secular system?
An excellent point. We are going to be going into detail in our further episodes in relation to that. However, in this particular episode, we are looking at the foundation of how we have arrived at where we have arrived. And one of the things I will tell you, as I said, about inclusivity and exclusivity, I would suggest that whichever is the system that is entirely appropriate on a logical, rational and reasonable footing that claims to be from a creator, then that system is going to have the necessary guidance for inclusivity. We have to bear that in mind. Now, as far as the question that you just asked is concerned, why did someone think that it is entirely appropriate to separate the church from the state? You will find again we are looking at everything from a Judeo-Christian understanding. So we have in the Bible, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's.
Is that where this comes from?
I would suggest it does, because when you ask even our Christian brethren, they will tell you that, look, there's the law of the country. That is what the Creator has deemed for us. Yeah, but we have got a different connection. So again, you will need a system, whichever system it is, that a belief system rather, that claims to be from the Creator, then all these particular aspects would be considered, because that is what in totality guidance is all about. So you find that anything and everything that we are considering today in the context of belief systems is from a Judeo-Christian understanding. And so you have the word religion that we are using. You will find so many books written on why religion. In fact, a few days ago, an article came out about how and why people who are religious, seem to have a kind of security in what they believe. But now you will note that when it talks about that, it is not talking about a specific system. It is talking about anyone that considers themselves to be religious. So where a Satanist, so where a Satanist who may fit into this particular definition says he feels at peace worshipping Satan, we should not have a problem, should we?
According to that.
According to the definition. But we find that around the 15th and 16th century, when the Christian world dominated the rest, we entirely took on the educational system from that perspective. Now, just to clarify, I'm not suggesting that we should discard all of it. No, I'm not suggesting that. What I am saying is that
some of it actually works very well.
Absolutely, and there is nothing wrong with that. Like we said, knowledge can be found anywhere. But there are times when you need to reevaluate what you may have been doing and establish whether what you have been doing up to now is entirely correct. You look confused, stunned.
No,
I know I have that effect on people, but
well, I'm not sure that you have that effect on media.
25%. 25%.
100%. So
we have actually gone 24.